So today we're going to be having real world conversation. By my time, this is 7:15, and as of this moment as well, we have 36 people on the call. Out of those 36 people, one person is trying to join. So in the course of this meeting, there will be times for Q&A. It's going to be built to be interactive. I'm going to ask questions. I'm going to create scenario-based questions to us and try to ensure that we are all carried along. Um, Before I proceed, my name is Mariam. I've been in product for the last 10 years. I've worked across different organizations at different roles. I have worn many caps in the course of my journey, even while being a product manager. And one of the things that is very particular to me is every time I work with a software development team. And within development team, we have product managers, developers, engineers, architects, business analysts, and QA. Now, for me, in my capacity as a PM, the QA team is my last line of defense. They are the ones that decide when we go live, most of the time, if we go live, and also advise us on what we should do and what we should not do. So for me, it's very important that communication is very fluid. Just the way a product manager has to have to find the best way to communicate user requirements at different level. I have to understand what new requirements is coming from top down, that is from the CEO, the C-suite, and translate it to what the QAs are going to understand, even translate it to what other product managers are going to understand. Then take that feedback from engineers and explain it in a way where the business side of the company can also understand. So in the capacity of that, I've had to work with QAs in translating requirements at different level and also creating reporting for different level. Now, before we get started, I want to understand the mix of the users I have here. So if you are a QA, can you please use the icon to raise your hand? The hand raised icon. I just want to know how many QAs I'm talking to. One, two. I see Orolua, I see Chisom, Chinoso, I see Patrick, I see Okpeyemi, Esther, CJ, no, sorry, Esther, Olu, Ibukun, Constance, um, Abdul, Abigail. I'm saying user. I don't know who user is. I'm seeing a lot of QAs on the team. So it's safe to say that I'm talking to half of the people here today that are QA engineers. So that's a good one. Thank you for joining. And I promise that this is going to be a session that we'll all enjoy. So let's get right into it. So before we start, we first of all need to understand what is communication, right? Um, okay. Now, before you start communicating, first of all, we need to understand what is communication, right? Communication is not just speaking or just writing. It's not just typing. Communication is the exchange of information. Now, again, information, ideas, and emotions between a sender and a receiver. And it can be done verbally when you're speaking to the person, non-verbally when you are using body language, visual cues, gestures, and written. Now, the ones a QA has to do every time, 80% of the time is through written communication. Either when you are reporting a bug on Jira or any of your software management tool, or you are writing a bug report that you're going to be using in Excel sheets, or you are creating a full summary report, a pre-deployment checks, post-deployment check regression, you are writing verbally. You are writing like you are doing written communication. Now, verbal communication is in cases where you are talking to the engineer, trying to explain or pass across the information you have to the engineer and letting them know, oh, I saw this bug and this is why I think it is critical. This is why I think we should fix it now. That is verbal. And in the course of having a verbal communication with remote teams, it is fluid because we can't see our visual cues. You can't see when somebody is squeezing their face when you are talking, right? But if you are in an office setting, like if you work on site, you will see instances when you are talking, someone is giving you bad eye, or you're talking or giving passing information across, and someone is not even listening to you. You can see that. In remote settings, most of those particular nuances is diminished, right? Now, our goal today is to understand the core aspect of communication and how we communicate via all of these means. Now, the key aspect of communication is we have, I just mentioned the sender and the receiver and the message itself and the medium in which you're sending that message. So the core component is the sender, which is you, the QA tester in this case, the message you want to send, which is the bug you're trying to report, the medium, are you sending this via Jira, Google Space, WhatsApp chat, email, whatever the case may be, that's the medium. Then the receiver, who are you sending it to? Now, who you are sending it to is very important because that helps you shape how you will present what you are trying to communicate, right? And the goal of communication is to inform, persuade, encourage, enlighten, convey results, whatever the case may be. Now, for communication to be effective, it needs to be clear, it needs to be concise, there needs to be active listening and effective communication, right? And empathy to prevent misunderstanding. It is not empathetic where you just send a developer, there's a bug on stage, it has to do with login, figure it out. You're just allowing the developer just go running through a rat race to figure out what to do. Now, for you to communicate effectively, you need to be clear and concise. You need to consider the context. Who are you sending this to? Will this person understand what you're sending in the format in which you are presenting it? And also, even though you are communicating a report, you should also be open to feedback on yourself. So now let's go into why we're here. Now, within the product team, alignment matters. And what we're trying to do is bridge the gap between QA, devs, and PM. The success of any project relies on effective communication. I didn't just say communication, effective communication between all of these people. Now, this is our role within the software development lifecycle. The QA ensures quality. That is your job. The dev focuses on efficiency. Is what I have built. Is it working? And is it working as it should? While the PM drives customer value. Now, we need to understand these differences. We need to accept these differences, and we need to own them as we continue to build the product or the project we've been assigned to work on together. Guys, if you're following me, let me know. Give me a thumbs up. Are you still with me? Okay, good. In the course of this, we're going to be going into different spheres of communication and how it applies to us, right? Excuse me. Now, there is a myth. This is a very small diagram I had to come up with to show how communication is important. And if you notice in this diagram, I have product in the center. And I have PM, devs, and quality assurance going through. If you notice all of that, this is a cycle. And that cycle continues on throughout the course of working together. Between the PM and the dev, it's going to be a lot of collaboration, telling them what we want to build, why we want to build it, what the features are going to be like, and clarification. The devs are going to ask Mariam, if this button goes this way, how do we work together? If I do this button this way, or I build this feature this other way, with this work, or the way you've designed the UK data requirement, we don't have, our tech stack cannot do this right now. How about we find an alternate approach? There's going to be a lot of collaboration and clarification. And in this part of the work, we are working on requirements and strategy. How do we build the product we've said I want to build? Now, between devs and QA, devs' work is to build and code. Now, the communication between devs and QA is bug reporting and fixes. You are discovering bugs, you are fixing bugs, you are discovering bugs and reporting bugs. The devs is fixing bugs and giving you to confirm. Now, there's also a communication line between QA and product managers, and that is risk assessment and acceptance. I am trusting you as a product manager to validate the quality of the product. The QA I have written down must be built, and what the developer has built. Your job is to now work in my own as my own defense system to confirm that what we said we want to build is what we build. It is working efficiently. You are representing our internal customers at that time. And here, you are helping me ascertain my risk, ascertaining that we can go live with this. This is comfortable enough for us to go live. In this way, between you and the PM, the communication is you're testing, validating, and sharing feedback on what we have. If you ever forget what the communication looks like, this graph is going to be a good way for you to start. Now, let's go into it. Now, I have created them into two different filters, people you need to communicate with. Now, if you notice in this previous diagram, QA is here, you are talking to PM, you are talking to dev, right? Now, let's make those two people you're talking to on your left and right hand side the filters. So for the PM filter, now I'm coming from a QA perspective. Now, what does a PM want to do? The PM wants to understand the customer impact of the bug. Now, we know for most of the time, QAs always give us 95 to 99% confidence level whenever we want to go live. Because sometimes some bugs will make it to production. We know that and we've accepted that. But our job as QA, the job of a QA is to ensure that no critical or high impact bugs makes it to production. That is the job. Now, what does the PM want to know when you are communicating with them? They want to know their goal. The only camera the PM sees through is what is the impact of this issue? Am I good to go? Where are my risks? Do I have plan to mitigate my risk? Are my risk low? What they want to know is what is the value and the risk of this feature? Revenue and conversion impact. If I go ahead with this feature, is there anything that I will be pushing right now that will affect revenue, that will affect conversion, that will stop users in their track towards getting value? If I go live with this feature, do I have the confidence level that it is not going to impact the brand that I am trying to build working on with this product? Will it affect the users I currently have? Now, when I'm talking about revenue and conversion, I'm saying that my acquisition, my users can sign up, log in, and do the first thing that they need to do. That's the main time to value. So I'm expecting you to test the functional requirement, not functional requirement, and ensure that end-to-end testing is done properly. When I'm talking about brand reputation, if, example, you are building a solution for children, am I sure that this solution I am building for these kids, there is no risk? They are not on the app. There is no security concern that people can come in and start saying or encouraging the children in a bad way. Think of Roblox, for example. There was a time that Roblox had bad review that pedophiles were getting on the app and talking to children and meeting them outside. That's a brand risk. That impacted Roblox for a very long time, right? User retention. Now, what I want you to know that you are setting my non-functional requirements. What is the load time? What are my security risks? What are the things I have done? Automation. Now, the last one, the value I am looking at for is user retention. This feature I am rolling out, hope it will not affect users I currently have and it will not make them uninstall the app. In this case, who knows the kind of test I expect you to be performing? If you know it, just drop a comment in the comment section. if you are concerned about user retention, if you know the test that I am expecting for us to validate this, what's the name of the testing? Wow, nobody knows. Not quite. Regression. Thank you so much, Esther. Thank you so much, Esther. So, Daniel, negative tests, UAT, and exploratory all happen. I'm trying to validate brand trust and revenue conversion. So, CJ and Esther, you got it right. Regression. Now, for us PMs, we are focused on outcome over the code. Automation test is great. All of the things you guys do is really, really good. But in this case, I want to see the outcome of the product. I want to be sure that the product I have built, we did not just only build it well, but we built the right product. So in this case, I am focusing on results. I want to be sure that the feedback you are giving me aligns with what the requirements we've set and the business goals that we have set for them. And I also want to understand that everything you're giving me has also met customer needs. That is what a PM wants to see when you're reporting to a PM. Now, let's go to a dev perspective. When you are reporting to dev, the only thing dev wants to know is, how can I fix this fast? What is the problem? Tell me what the problem is. Tell me the quickest way to identify the problem and fix it. All your big grammar, they don't care. They want to be able to reproduce that issue in under 60 seconds. Because as busy as you are, because maybe on your Jira board, you have 28 tickets that you have to test. The developer has 2,000 lines of code they have to build for another feature, and they still have to fix your bugs. The quicker you get them to the answer, the quicker they can fix it, the quicker you can mark it as done, the quicker there's no friction in the system, because it is a system that is always moving. Now, what they want is context and efficiency. How can I reproduce this under 60 seconds? Give me clear steps to reproduce it. What are the environment and beautiful I need to do that are peculiar to this case? Relevant logs if needed. I'm sure in instances you see them say, oh, I don't have the logs, I don't have the logs. Then you start chasing your DevOps person to provide logs for them so that they can see. Because sometimes things don't happen on the server side. They have to go into the code. They have to look at the logs to see what is happening. That's why a lot of software tools now, even Google Analytics is adding, even Play Store and App Store are having Crashlytics as part of their bundled feature, because it helps you know at what point things are crashing and what is crashing it. So what does a dev need? A dev wants to see maximum 5 steps to reproduce, build commits, details, console logs required if you have it, network and API payload if it is. Some of this you might not be able to provide, but what you can provide them is clarity to get into the problem. Now, the biggest myth in our industry is that everyone's goal is the same. Most of the time, it's not. Each of our function has a slightly different lens. You, the QA, you are prioritizing minimizing risk. That's your job. The dev is prioritizing velocity and technical health of the product they are building. The PM is prioritizing a lot more: business value, customer business value, customer impact, functional requirements, quality and depth. We are moving across different lenses at every point in time. If you've ever seen a PM in action, you see the way PM is talking to the engineering team is not the way they are talking to the CEOs when they are in management meeting. It's not the way they're talking to the marketing team or the sales team. It's not even the way when they're talking to the customers. We have to always switch our arts to suit the situation, right? We need to understand that and own it. And our job as each of these individuals in this pipeline is to find the most effective way to work, right? The friction isn't, and you need to understand that the friction isn't personal. It is a structural conflict between these priorities, right? Your power as a QA isn't in just finding the bugs. It's in translating the risk mitigation that you've identified into language a developer can understand and product value that a PM wants to see. That's the job. It is a very difficult job. So we need to understand that. And tonight, we're not just going to talk about how to write a bug. We're going to talk about why your bugs sometimes get ignored, misunderstood, or lead to conflicts. So I have a question for us. Have you ever written a bug and you and your developers are fighting? If you have, it's working. Have you ever written something like that? If you've ever had a conflict with your developers, can you raise your hand? I'm sure. Like this is something that every QA starting out and every QA moving, Constance, I'm sure, and I would definitely like to hear some of it as we go. Patrick, definitely. As you start your career, you start seeing all of these things. But the point is, as you grow in your career, you tend to know how to do your work better. And that is what this session is about today, right? And from my perspective as the one setting the priorities, right? This is the most critical skills a QA must master if you're going to work with me or excel in any software development team. Now, I hope you're still with me as we continue to chat the course forward. Now, let's move into the next stage of this conversation. What is the key element of a bug report? Your bug report should have a clear structure. The title must be clear. We want to know what is it, if you're using, now depending on the platform you're using, some companies use Jira, Trello, GitLab. These are all project management tools, right, to report bugs. Now, in your team, if you're using Jira, it's easier because with Jira, you can tie it to the epic or the feature that relates to the bug. Now, in that structure, regardless of the platform, what you need to know is ensure that your bug has the proper title. I'm going to show you example of when we are using Excel and when we're using Jira, so we can show you the difference in the course of this. So you want to ensure that the title is clear, no ambiguity. And you also want to know that in the body of it, you are putting in the description of the problem, the steps to reproduce the problem, right? You are putting in, if it is particular, yes, someone is speaking. Hello? Okay, I guess that was a mistake. So you also want to prioritize what each person is saying, and excuse me, you want to focus on the title. That is the observable icon and condition. Users are unable to log in with social sign-on. That title is explicit. Then in the body of the message, then you have the description, which is going to be longer than the title slightly. And you now have the priority and severity. Now, for priority and severity, we'll go into that a little bit deeper. Then you have the steps to reproduce. This is very, very important. Expected versus actual result. This is one of the things that QAs, most QAs, especially junior QAs starting out, don't always provide. They don't provide the expected outcome. You need to understand what the expected is. You need to state it in your bug report and the actual. This helps whoever is reading it understand what you're expecting to see versus what you're seeing. It might even be a case of what you're expecting to see is not even a bug, that it is an improvement. And we can easily clarify. You need to put it. And please, any bug reports you are doing and you don't have screenshots or screen recording, you are wrong. Because how can I see what you're seeing? I don't live in your laptop. I don't live in your head. I don't use your system. I don't know if you are using MTN or Airtel at the point. You need to put in that is only, it is very easy because people are visual by nature. And when they can see what you're seeing, in fact, even if they don't read it, they can easily follow the steps that you are showing them if you have a screen recording. And screenshot helps them see the screen you are talking about, right? So it's very important that this is the structure that you follow. You also need to also ensure that your reporting is focused on being able to work together to resolve issues, efficient debugging, and impact analysis and mentorship. We'll get into that. Now, in the structure of your bug report, right, we also need to understand that severity, you need to justify your rating. Now, I've seen a couple of QAs just dump high, critical, high, critical. Do you know what critical means? Some people will just drop critical and they will leave it and say, let's make it a day. Critical means something that extremely important. Like if that thing is currently a problem, users cannot do anything. An example is users are unable to sign up. That is critical. That one is grade one, call the fire service. Users are unable to log in to your platform. That is critical. Users are unable to pay when you are a subscription model company. That is critical. Users are asking for a loan of 50,000, you are giving them 5 million. That is beyond critical. Just scrap the entire product. Users are unable to transfer money that they have put into the account on your bank app. That is critical. For a wallet system, users are unable to fund their wallet or make transactions. That is critical. Oh, you have two different login systems. Login option, login with email and sign and password, and login with social sign-on. The users are unable to sign in with social sign-on. I wouldn't count that as critical because the other option exists. I will count it as I. That's my own prerogative. If your company's primary sign-up requirement is social sign-on, then it's critical for that business, right? For example, when I get on a dashboard, my data is not coming up. That is I. It's not critical because I can still do other things. um it's content loads then disappears. That is high. I'm still on, but I'm not getting value. So you need I am seeing my screen and it is stretched or it is scattered. We ask for the system. If you are using a 16-inch system, it's not going to be the same experience if you're using 11-inch, right? So that is medium. So when you are putting severity, because the minute you put severity or priority on something, you're telling that person that this is the order in which I want you to pick this. So if you put an issue that is critical as medium, it means that the developer will prioritize other critical things before they get to that medium bug that you just reported. And if you put something that is medium as critical, it means that you're telling the developer that prioritize this one first before you pick the other ones. So we need to actually be clear when we are doing priority and severity. Now, there's also a difference between priority and severity. So now, I see a lot of QA engineers use this interchangeably. Now, priority determines the urgency of fixing it. So something might be high in priority, but not severe. While severity measures the technical impact of that bug on the system. It can be critical to minor. Priority can be high to low. It can also be critical. So I just wanted to do that. Let's also go home and read more about priority and severity. Now, before I come into this slide, right, one of the things I also wanted to say is that bug reporting is where most of the conflict happens between you and dev, between you and PM, between PM and dev. A developer will push back because they don't agree with your P1. For example, something happened with a test we're doing on the platform, and the QA was reporting something that is not even a bug from our own perspective, because it is not, that was not the way the system was built. And him and the QA were arguing, and then they pulled me in. Yes, one of the things BPM do, we're always solving query. I'm actually tired of that part of the job. So they pulled me in and I'm trying to understand. I was like, okay, what is the bug you reported? Walk me through it. What exactly? I was like, okay, all right, here is the problem. I understand what you are saying. We can make that experience better, but it's actually not a bug. That is the way we have designed the system to be done. And dev, yes, this experience can be better. What we can do is we'll back this as an improvement and put it into the next work pipeline. That was the way I solved that quarrel. I think all PM are natural mothers. We are always settling quarrels between children. And by children, I mean PM, devs, sales, everybody is fighting, and we're always in the middle. So a developer will push back because they don't agree with your P1 severity. And that's why I was saying that we all have to be clear on what severity and priority we are setting when we are creating a bug. And a PM pushes back because they don't see the business risk of it. So there are instances whereby you create a bug, excuse me, there are instances whereby you create a bug and PM will be like, oh, don't worry, put this in the backlog, we can go live with this. That's because at that point, we have identified that that thing is not a business risk. That when we go live with that particular bug, we do not have a problem, right? Because it might be a case of our MVP is just to validate one idea, and what you're saying is an improvement or it is part of the next feature we are trying to build for V1. So we'll push back. So when we push back for that, if you are not clear, feel free to ask the PM a question or why they don't see it. But if you still feel strongly about it, communicate and document it so that nothing comes back to you. Because if anything is caught in production, they'll be like, did QA not test this? Then you can have your proof. It's like you're asked now. Ah, I tested it though. Miriam said this thing is not a bug. I did my part. Like I said, have your receipts. That's why I used to tell my QA, have your receipt. Puts me on the hot seat if there's something that I pushed on. And sometimes we PMs also take risks. We don't know it all, right? Now, when setting a priority, always ask, does this block a core user flow? Does it affect a large percentage of users? Does it cause financial loss? If the answer is no, it's probably not a P1. Even if it is annoying. Yeah, I know you QAs, you get annoyed about everything. You being annoyed about everything does not put money on our pockets and does not help us get the product into the market faster. So if I'm shading you guys, sorry, I'm just telling you as it is. Then the next one here is crucially never say it's wrong, right? The actual result is X. So don't just say this thing is not working or it is wrong. That's not enough information for us to fix that problem, right? The best way to say this result is XYZ and it is blocking the user from achieving Z. The expected result people should expect is this, and this is what we are saying. That else puts what you're saying into context for anyone reading that, right? So let's go into examples before I get into this. So there are cases whereby we get feedbacks. Let me give us a use case or an example. A discount code field on checkout page is visually broken on iPhone 15 Pro Max, right? Now, one of the things I've told my guys to do is, except it's something that you see is happening across board generally on our platform, which is peculiar to a particular iOS, validate that it is just that OS. There was an instance when I was working at ULesson where something was not working. The customers were complaining, and I was wondering why were they complaining. Then later I found out that this thing is happening to lower end devices with Android 9 and below. I was in an OS higher than that. Half of my QA were using it. And the customers were complaining. And we had a lot of customers because we're building product for rural areas, people that cannot afford big devices. And I was wondering, this thing is working now. Why is it stressing me? QA were like, but we are seeing it. It was actually a feedback from the customers. We had to jump on a call with the customer to understand. We now asked her for our phone and all of that. When we now discovered it, now the customer was now using, I think, Windows, iOS, Android OS 9. Something just, and out of the QAs, okay, can we test between 9 and 7 to be downwards to be sure? We now realized that anything below 9, from 9 and downwards, the app wasn't working. So we now had to profile a particular fix for that particular brand of OS. Now, we could only solve up to 7. So that means anything below 7, we cannot solve for it. So what we did was we updated our Play Store to not allow users with OS less than 7 to download our app, because that ensures that they are not having a bad experience, ensures our brand quality is intact, and people get the best experience when they are using the app. So sometimes even the OS of the app you are using matters. The way your app, the way my WhatsApp is working on my Mac is not the same way it's working on my HP, not the same way it's working on my tab, my Samsung tab, not the same way it's working on my phone. So sometimes things might be peculiar to the device you're testing. And that is why when you are reporting, let us have the details of the test device you are using so we can even deep dive further. Because when the developer tells you, but it's not happening like that on my system, he's probably telling you the truth. Though we know that's the trick developers use to tell us that they don't want to fix that bug. But that's another story for another day. But when you give them that information, it helps them put it on their emulator and try to reproduce that particular issue, right? So now a scenario is a discount code field on the checkout page is visually broken on an iPhone 15 Pro Max. Now, this was the title that QA put. Discount field is broken on iPhone. Please, does that help us in any way? No, it doesn't. Right? Now, however, a better caption would have been checkout. That's the feature. Visual layout bug costing 10% of field to be obscured on iPhone 15 Pro Max. High value customer segment. In this case, 80% of the users of this particular cluster use iPhone 15. And those users are people that cannot see the checkout page. You can see that is a problem. So in this case, the bug was categorized as high. However, in another instance, maybe 10% of the users are the one that use iPhone. It is medium, we can fix it later. So at the end of the day, QA must also understand their user base, their customer segment, and who they are building for and who is using it. Now, so in this world, we have to ensure that we are not doing conflict-inducing issues. PM is aligned on the communication we're working on. Dev is aligned and screenshot is attached. Please, I can't say it enough. Screenshot is very, very important. Now, let's go to the other one. Now, justifying severity in your reports. Bad justification is saying critical system failure. Who are you to decide is a critical system failure? Are you the backend? Are you the architect? Are you the DevOps? You have to clearly let us know how that thing is causing a problem. A good justification would be critical data discrepancy arise, investigate, right? And the impact analysis of this is that insight on user experience and discrepancies and clear communication. The effective reporting mitigates any misunderstanding that anybody can have at any point in time. Now, let us look at a little bit different. Let's talk a little bit in that scenario I just raised on the checkout. Look at the difference in what I just explained. The first title is vague and emotional. Maybe you have not eaten when you wrote that ticket. Yes, food also plays a part. You might be hungry or angry. Maybe the developer has been giving you buggy products for a very long time, and you were tired of just testing the person's bug. And like, this thing is not working on iPhone, figure it out. But we must always be professional and proactive when we are reporting, right? It is not about us. It is not. It is just a job to be done, right? Now, the second title speaks to the PM, it's a P2, and it affects high value customer segment and it explains the outcome. The third title speaks to the dev, it specifies the stack and what they need to do, right? Never use all caps or aggressive language in your reporting. The tone matters. Now, let me tell us whenever you use caps, you are shouting at the person. That's what it means. In case you don't know, please know it now. If you are using all caps in your email, if you are using all caps in your reporting, you are screaming. That's what it means in written communication in professional setting. So you use all caps to highlight that this thing is highly important. So to us, it feels like screaming, right? So only use all caps when that thing is really, really critical and you want to call attention to it, right? And avoid aggressive tone in your messaging. And yes, we can perceive aggression in written communication. The tone matters. A developer is most likely to prioritize a colleague who respects them over a colleague who is yelling at them digitally. And that's the truth. We all want respect in our workspace. Now, another scenario is this one, which is a non-critical API endpoint sometimes returns 500 error. Let me share this tab instead so I can see the error in front of me, because I just listed all the severities I have. So another error is a critical API endpoint sometimes returns a 500 error instead of a 200, but only under high load. Remember, whenever 10 or 20 people are using it, it's fine. But the minute 5,000 people use it, that error happens. Then that's a problem. Now, a bad justification will be you saying, severity one, this is a 500 error, it's a critical system failure, without you investigating why that is happening. A good justification will be severity high, while not a user blocking error, the 500 response creates a critical data discrepancy in our analysis. This can be in the description, right? Dashboard impacting the PM's ability to correctly measure feature adoption and causing the data team extra cleanup work. It needs fixing before the end of the quarter reporting cycle. That can be in your description, right? To guide them. Now, critical blocker just means that the product is down, the user cannot proceed. That's what critical. I already explained that, right? An intermittent 500 on an analytics endpoint is not S1, it's a bad ticket, right? The good justification is great, but it explains the downstream consequences. It's not a user error, it's a PM data error. So it means that it's not directly affecting your product. However, it is affecting the internal teams that are using the product to make decision. Now, let's talk about internal team for a little bit. Now, do we know that apart from the app that you see, let's use WhatsApp for example. Now, we use WhatsApp, we type, we press to our friends, we communicate. But do you know that every time you make a stroke or there's a new feature on WhatsApp, there are internal teams that also use WhatsApp, not the way you are using it. For example, the data team is looking at how many people are using the app within a particular period of time. Whenever a new feature launches, for example, when they launch our WhatsApp status, they are checking how many people are actually using status. When we put the button on the left, how many people are using it more than when you put it on the right? Now, imagine in a case whereby the data that thing is pulling is now wrong. It might not be a user critical error, but for your internal users, the people that work in your company, like the sales team, marketing team, data team, the business unit, the C-suite, it's a critical error for them and it still needs to be fixed. We need to understand as product managers, as QA engineers, as testers, as developers, that you are not just bringing product for external users only. And by external users, I mean your end users, either B2B users, B2C users, B2B2C users, right? You are also building your product for internal users that would use it. An example of internal tools are our data dashboard, our admin CMS, our backend that we use to upload content, manage users. So information across all of those things need to be optimum at all points in time. And sometimes you will be required to test those platforms. So communication also has to be fluid in that instance. So the next one, I hope we are still following and we are getting some really, really good insight from this. The next one we're going to be talking about beyond the tickets, right? Proactive communication. And here I'm going to talking about your value from the start, right? So the old way is PM finishes the spec, dev build, QA tests. That's the old way. That is archaic way. Please, if you are a QA, either you're just starting out, you're already grounded, or you're a senior, dead that idea. That once they build the requirement, I'm done. Dead it. Right now, QAs are involved from the beginning of ideation. I don't even mean requirement, though, from gathering the requirements to when the product is out in the market. You are very critical in each stage of the software development lifecycle. The old way is when the PM finishes the spec, then the dev build it, then you only comes to you the QA when it is done. That is dead and gone. In an agile environment, and we need to actually start thinking that way and working that way. If you only get involved at the end, my brother and sister, you're a gatekeeper. and nobody grows at the gates. Just saying, right? It means that people are just leaving you to just figure out the end. And that means that if you're the gatekeeper, if anything happens, you'll be the one that is de facto blamed for the problem. But if you get involved in the start, you are a product partner. You are actively involved in building the quality of that product. As a PM, my biggest desire is a QA who challenges the spec before development even begins. That is my ideal PM, and that is my ideal QA, and that's the QA I keep. Now you start wondering why you work for somewhere for 3 months and they did not retain you, or you intern somewhere for 3 months and they did not retain you. That is why, right? Imagine a PM proposes a new sign-up flow, and the proactive QA asks, "What happens if a user signs up with Google, but their name has special characters?" It's a very wonderful question. What is the maximum length of the email field? It's a good question. Is this flow still performant at 50,000 users per hour? That means that you are thinking beyond just the specs. You've just prevented like 10 to 15 bugs by just asking 3 questions. That is value. That is the seat at the strategy table. That is how you become a lead. That's how you become visible. That is when we trust you with more responsibilities. Now, how do you become more active? Be involved in feature discovery. Collaborate with the team. When the specs is done, ask for it to be shared with you, review it, ask questions. You are even fortunate if you've already worked on the product before. You already know how users are interacting with the product. So you are already, guys, this spec you wrote here is being so. Our users are not going to use it like this. So, oh, this one is too complicated for these children. We currently build for 3 to 5 years old. Why are you writing eccentric in English? How can these children spell it? Children that cannot even spell bag. You are catching it from the beginning. Design reviews. During design, I have seen a lot of QA save us 2 weeks in development time from asking us questions, from being involved. When we are writing the user story, review it. Don't just go to sprint planning and backlog grooming and just be quiet. Be involved. Review the stories. See what limitations we are not seeing. Nobody is an island. Interactive testing. All of my QA testing, all of my end user testing, all of my alpha and beta tests, QAs are the one that lead it. I will tell them, be in charge. Let me know what they say. When we're working on launching the U-Lesson class board, the lead on that thing was me. Later, I just handed it over to my QA. Lead this, because you'll be the one testing it. Now look at your tests and as against the way the users are using it in front of you, and learn from that mistake. And he's the better for it. And right now he's leading the QA team. I love working with him, Shola. Awesome guy. Then during your CI as well, have you created an automation step that should run on CI/CD? Is the DevOps clear on what you've automated? Ask questions. Be involved. Active QA involvement equals to better products. Now, I'm almost done. Now, the next thing we need to also do is how to frame our concerns into actionable stuff. Now, here, key points for effective communication. Frame your concerns as trade-offs. The problem, you see a high-risk area in the next sprint scope. The conflicting answer will be, we can't ship it because it is too risky. We need 3 more days, right? The conflict-free statement will be, to hit this date, we have 2 options. Now, don't also be the person that always gives problem. QAs are fond of just giving me the problem, but they never give me suggestion for improvements. And that thing is frustrating. Right? I want you to tell me, okay, Mariam, this bug is critical, but you want us to go live with it. These are the issues we see. These are the ways that we are proposing we can mitigate it. You can even tell me, Mariam, while we are fixing this, can you just release only this part? Like, let's make the other one soft launch so that when the bug is on, we can just do it without doing another app update. We can say to hit this date, we have 2 options. Option A, we exclude testing for this edge case and accept this. Option B, which we recommend, we ship on this to fully test and bring the other feature later. Like I said, an active QA is a better product. When you demand more time, when you are seen as an obstacle, and that is true. I know QAs are always like, I need more time to test. But when you present your options on why you're requiring more time with clear documented risk trade-offs, you are seen as a responsible decision maker. PMs don't want gatekeepers. And FYI, we need to know that before a product gets to you as a QA, a PM has tested it on an eye level. That's why whenever you give a PM a report, they'll tell you, you didn't see some of the bugs I saw. Because by default, PMs are testers. I test my product even better than some QAs because I'm the one customers will hold my throat if it doesn't work. Your job is to help me see what I have not seen. So that is why whenever a QA does a shitty test for me or a surface level test for me, I am frustrated. Because even me, the PM, is doing a better job than you, which is that is your role. So that means you are not being my last line of defense. A PM's job is to manage trade-offs by giving us clear options. By us, I mean QAs and devs. You are helping them do their job, not. This fosters mutual respect and reducing the instinct to push back. Now, the next thing is, how do we do this effectively? Effective communication, like I said, is very important. Ensure that collaboration leads to successful outcome. Don't just, there are some QAs that whenever they report bug, we'll fight, there will be fight on the team for that entire day. I'm sure you've seen them before because it will just cause kasala. I know a guy.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I think we lost Mariam. Let's just see if she'll be joining back. Yeah, so she lost her internet. She'll be joining back in 3 minutes.
Thank you, sir.
And again, if you have questions, you can drop your questions or get it ready while she joins back. yeah, Miriam is back. Yeah, Miriam, if you can unmute and speak.
Hi guys, sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, sorry about that. I got disconnected. Let me share my screen again. Please let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it's displaying now.
All right. Sorry, Nigeria happened to me.
I
So
know,
sorry.
right?
Okay, so let's talk about key points for effective communication. Like I was saying, there are some QAs that once they drop a bug, we will fight. Somebody will fight. Some people will fight. Like I had a guy I was working with who was really good, but this guy can tell you is that app is not going until he's done testing. He was a very difficult person. And he will not start testing on time. As we are finishing the stuff, he will not start testing. He will wait until maybe 4 days to release, planned release, and start testing. He will not give us the report a day before release. Some of the bugs might even take us a week to fix. Like nobody liked him on the team. So whenever his report comes in like this, before the devs even see what is in the report, they are already pissed. Please don't be that person. Yes, he is still a QA, but his growth in the company is very limited. Yes, he knows his job, but he's just a very difficult person to work with. So the goal is when you create your bug report, when you report stuff, let it be because you are trying to create collaboration that leads to outcomes, successful outcomes, not because you just want to report for reporting sake, or you want to tick a box that you've done your work for the day, or you are reporting because I want to show them that I have the power not to go take this to release. Now, also log your reports. There are instances whereby a bug you reported today might come in maybe 3 months after. And when it comes in, you don't have to create that report newly. You just have to open the ticket and tell them that this is record again, except in cases whereby your PM actually said, report this again as a fresh one. It helps you, and that's why tools like Jira, Trello, GitLab is great because you can reopen a closed issue, right? Or you can even create issues that are related to another bug. There are some bugs that looks like feature. I hope you guys know that we will know in PM and dev and all of us that built the thing that is bug. But when users start using it, we just treat it as feature. And that is the truth. I remember the time whereby I reported a bug on WhatsApp, right? It was not a, it was to me, it wasn't a bug. I just told them, thank you for adding this feature and whatever. And they responded that actually this was not supposed to be a feature because I was in the WhatsApp group then where we actually were closed testers. I was a beta tester. And one of the devs reached out to me, I think the PM, the TPM at that project. They had to ask me, okay, how did I arrive at this? Like, how did I get what I just said? And I showed them, and I was a PM, so that was like 2 years ago. And I showed them, like, ah, ah, this is crazy. And that was before we started having groups as a feature. Then there was a way you could get groups by getting the list of people you worked with, and then you've worked with in the same group, and then go to a particular chat mix to get it was so complicated. I don't know what I was looking for. Me, I like testing apps, right? And we're like, they had to reach out. I had to show them. They're like, Jesus. Then they now went through their data to look for how many users are actually asking for group group list as a feature. And I was one of them. I had reported it a year before that time. So for us to know that people actually are taking your QA seriously, right? And then they gave me credits on my WhatsApp business. That's another story for another day. So data analysis, inside that drive informed decision making, creative solutions, like I said. Don't just create the problem. If you have alternative solution, if you have a way we can work together, don't just say, we cannot go live because we have three critical bugs. What you need to understand is this is an MVP. Let's say we have to release 4 things for this MVP, for example. And the issue you've said is there, but out of the 4 things we need to go, it's only affecting one of them. That is not even the main feature. You can come up with an idea or a suggestion. Say, okay, we can go live with this first 3, but this fourth one, can we please keep it? Let's fix it and roll it out within the next 2 weeks. Or can we go live with everything we have, but A/B test it? And release it to only a particular cluster of our customer base right now. Customers that we know that are currently not using this feature that has this bug. That's how you become an amazing QA team and how you solve problem effectively. Plan stuff. Don't be like my former QA manager, QA engineer that will not test things until he is now the most important person. Plan your test. Test as features are ready. Unit test, very important. Integration test, very important. If you find a way, once the app is stable and the product is live, write your automated test for it so that you don't have to go through that thing again. You cut your regression by half. Plan your test. Oh, a new feature is coming. Look at the requirements. Start creating test plan, test strategy. Create it. Even if you are not the team lead, share with your team lead, or your team members. If you have a QA team or a PM, these are things we should go. What do you think? Right? Ensure alignment and clarity. Then risk assessment. Balance the risk. Okay, this feature, which one is out of the 4 features we are going live with? Which one is important? Which one is no matter what we do, we are going? We just finished a project right now with another client. We asked them, what is the most critical things you want us to test? Your app is very big and you want us to do this in 2 weeks. What are the things you want us to prioritize testing first? Right? And we share that. That's how you become an effective QA. Then another thing that QA gets is pushback. But before I talk about pushback, I want to say that if you communicate effectively and respectfully, you would barely get pushback. Now, when those pushback happen, don't be dismissive. Listen. Remember this thing where we say we listen, we don't judge. This thing that is trending with these Gen Zs now, we listen, we don't judge. That should be your watchword as a QA. Listen, don't judge. Listen to understand from that person's perspective. It might be a PM that is frustrated because you don't know the kind of hot fire that is under that person's bomb from the top level to get that app out that week. But you're acting like Vin Diesel holding the app by chokehold. All of this conversation, listen, right? That's where you can come to an agreeable conclusion. Understand their perspective with empathy. We're not saying you should drop quality or your values and do the wrong thing, but listen. Reaffirm the impact of what you're saying, clarify the significance of the issues that you've said, right? And here, excuse me, when you get pushback, conflict isn't always bad. Yes, I know. Conflict isn't always bad. It doesn't mean that you have to fight or start throwing blows, right? It's just two people advocating for their domain. Devs want to get that thing off their case. Product wants to push out and get the C-suite off their neck. If a PM changes your priority from P1 to P2, don't fight it. Don't start saying, Miriam, that PM, Miriam, she's always just the prioritizer. She doesn't, I don't know what I am doing. You don't have all the picture, right? Ask, I see you lowered the priority. Can you confirm the product decision to accept the risk? State the risk for this release. Most times, they probably haven't thought about the specific risk. Or the risk you are thinking is high, is medium within that product roadmap. And in this case, in either of them, you are prompting them to own the decision, which is their job. That's the PM's job. If they confirm it, you've done your job. You raise the risk and it was deliberately accepted. You are no longer the source of conflict. Right? And in this case, listen, reconfirm the impact, propose a compromise if there is any, and document the decision. Ensure that whatever we decided is documented where people can see. Don't just say, me and Miriam discuss it, it is done. Even if it is your Slack channel, even if it is WhatsApp people are using, just put it there. Hi guys, we've reviewed this thing is related to P1 and the PM has identified the risk and we are going live with it and we've documented it in this blah, 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 blah. Every release I have ever done in my life, there's a document that the QA creates for me where I know how many bug went with that release, the impact of that bug that went with that release. So if I say release 1 on March, I will tell you how many bug went with it, like I know. So if it comes as client feedback or customer care is telling me, I'll tell them we know, I've already batched it for the next cycle. I am pre-informed. And even when that thing is going live, the minute I see that we're going live with an unavailable low priority bug, within my release notes, I will communicate it to the CX team because that is the first line of communication from the customers. By CX, I mean customer experience, customer support. Right? I communicate that to them as well. And we can't do that if QA does not document effectively. Sorry, I was supposed to go forward, not backward. So, embracing positive communication. Yes, this is the part that I wanted to talk about a little bit. And that is, in every interaction, assume the person on the other end is competent and trying their best. Yeah, there will be something when somebody is not competent and we all know. That's not the focus of today. Just follow me, okay? So in this case, assume intent. Understand that motivations behind each role is different. So always assume the person that is doing the job knows their job, right? If a dev fails to tell you your bug isn't reproducible, don't argue. Offer to screen share, get on a call with them, walk them through it. If a PM says a bug isn't a priority, don't get angry. It is not about you. You are not the problem. We're just trying to achieve the same goal in different ways, right? Ask what the highest priority bug is and why so you can align your next efforts. It makes you be better at the next one. Your reputation as a collaborative, objective, and strategic partner will make your voice the most respected in the room. There's an intern I worked with recently. I don't know if she's on this call, Isioma. Whenever Isioma is bringing bug, my devs are excited yet afraid because if someone, for lack of a better word, will open their yansh, even up to vetting curriculum, which is not part of what our responsibilities, but it is the level of intentionality that she goes through, and she will assume that we are all proficient, we know what we are doing. She will come from a mom perspective, a user perspective, a teacher perspective, and put all of that into our report and makes her a better QA that some interns have worked with, right? And she shares this information and it is good. So for you to embrace positive communication, assume the intent is pure, focus on the facts. Don't think everything is about you. Don't always be quick to react. Don't always think, oh, this attack is on my person. No. Focus on the facts. Abstract your emotion away from what you're trying to report. I understand that you guys are working towards the same shared goals, right? Align on outcomes for the success of the project. Avoid blame. Don't point fingers. I communicated it, it wasn't taken, but we've documented it, right? Don't put people under the bus because you want to shine. It makes you a really, really shitty person. Sorry, pardon my French, right? So that's how you embrace positive communication. That's how people trust you. That's how people leverage on you. Now, key points for a strategic QA: value. Visualize quality as a business impact. Don't just think I'm testing this app because I want to ensure there's no bug. Know that I'm testing this app because I want this to be the best value the user can get and the best value the business can position themselves at. Right? Now, understand that value is the first thing we want to see. Businesses want to get value from the product they build. Users want to get value from the product they are downloading on their system or using. Data. Empathize precision. Don't just create reports. Or in this build, 20 bucks went into it, three are parity, the other ones, four are four are low, the others out of the remaining are low. You can do it with quantitative data or you do use percentages. People love that. Early testing, foster collaboration from project start, documentation, ensure clarity in decision making, outcomes, celebrate your success, learn from your mistakes, learn from your collaborative mistakes in the team, and do better in the next one, right? Um, Here is the part that we also didn't see in the first one. This is a different graph from the one I shared earlier. There's a particular part whereby QAs also have to communicate outside their development team to the business. In this case, you are communicating with marketing, sales, the CEO himself. They are looking at product launch and growth, how many bugs is going through it, strategic alignment, market needs and goals. So at that point, they are not looking, they will never look at your bug tickets. No CEO will go into your bug ticket and start saying, let me see 20 bugs. They want to see high level. Based on this release, we've seen that we have 95% confidence level to go live. There are critical bugs which has been fixed, and we have 2 bugs going which are not critical and will be fixed in the next cycle. Capish? Don't start showing them 20 bugs. You can add it as a related document in your report. But don't be sending mail to your CEO and telling them, you can go through this bug sheet to see everything, and you go line and by line to see the screenshots. Number one, yes, they will sack you immediately. More grease to your elbow. So the way you communicate with your dev, like I said, is different from your PM, different from people external to your team. You need to understand the person you're communicating with and create reports based on